What's going on, everybody? This is Pod Scum. You found it, the podcast that dives into the deepest, darkest, murkiest waters with a plethora of legendary guests. I am, of course, your host, the number one scumbag, your bastard of ceremonies, Rex Ruger. That's Rex with 3 X's. You might also know me as AKA the King of Sleaze, AKA the Hair Metal High Priest, AKA the man with the golden pipes and the velvet tongue, but most importantly, AKA Diamond, David Lee Roth Jr. That's right. You're looking at him, the son of glam, the front man for the band. Just smoked a few grams, got 1 million fans. I'm your ice cream man, Mr. Wop Bop Loo Bop Wop Bam Bam, hot damn, Shazam. Whew. Coming to you, as always, from the Pink Pussycat Lounge, and joined, as always, by the one-man Latino jam band, Keith Hernandez, extraordinary first base man, and, of course, number 17 in your program and number 1 in your hearts, as I pound on my Soulfly shirt, repping Soulfly tonight. Max Cavalera and the boys out there doing their thing. And, got a good guest for you tonight, I hope, as you get a look at me inviting him, because this is the No Frills podcast. You get no frills because you get to look at me, and that's all the thrills you need. Plus, I don't know shit about technology, so 49-year-old man, for God's sakes. But I am the hardest working man in show business. That's why I'm bringing you this and sponsoring it with this. If you're looking at me saying, Rex, how do I get the locks that rock? Well, there it is, folks. Give myself a look here before our guest comes in here. Oof. Boy, it's hard. Sure ain't easy. Salute, folks. Here comes my buddy here. Where is he? Where is he?
Hello?
Where are you, buddy? I can hear you. I just can't see you yet. You just got to activate the video part. There you are. Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing good.
It's good to see you, my man. First of all, for my audience, this is BYRON Davis, vocalist for what I consider a legendary band, God forbid.
So
I'm always willing to toot my guest horn, because I know a lot of humble people don't want to do it, but you guys fucking kick ass, man. I'm so glad that you guys are back. I don't know for how long. Hopefully we get to the bottom of that, man, but congratulations on your reunion show and for coming back to the rock world.
yeah, it's been a long time waiting, but it's kind of here now.
Yeah. Well, I guess, first of all, man, before we get into the music and the coming back and everything, been a crazy couple of years for people, man. How have you fared throughout this whole COVID pandemic? How have you and your family done? Anybody gotten sick?
Yeah, we've all gotten sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I caught it twice. I had it when it first came out before they knew what it was.
Yeah.
And then I ended up catching it again, I guess I want to say this past Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I went and got the infusion, and pretty much even though I had it and it said that I had it, I didn't really feel the effects of it. I mean, I had fever for a half a day, and then that was about it. And
same thing for me. Yeah, a very mild case. I did have it, but I'm a nurse by day, so I work in healthcare, so I was exposed to it a lot. So it was bound. Yeah. I was bound to get it. There was probably no, outrunning it for me, because I was kind of right there in the trenches during it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the same spot. I was with the work that I do, I was around it 24/7. When everyone else was home, we were still working.
Yeah. So the last time we got an album from you guys, 2012's Equilibrium. So are we back to trying to dominate the world here, BYRON? Are we back for, God forbid, world domination? Are we back full time?
I mean, we're as back as much as we can be full time. I mean, everybody has taken a step back and is doing other things with themselves. So,
yeah,
I mean, if time permits, then things will roll. But, everyone, is now, like I said, busy. Doc has another band. Corey has another band. I mean, me and Beaker, we're still down. We're doing the grown-up thing.
Yeah.
Taking care of families and
sure
loved ones. So, You know, so I mean, it's cool.
Now, I guess the fans would probably want me to ask, though, you know, and it was a long time even before this that he had left the band, man. But any chance that we ever see Dallas back into the fold, or is he completely
I mean,
finished with music, or God forbid?
I can't really speak for Dallas. Dallas is doing Dallas.
Okay, fair enough.
You know, I spoke to him not too long ago, but you know, he's on his own life path. So
Sure.
you know, can't really say one way or the other. He's
Well,
doing music. He's doing his own thing, though.
Well, for the most part, what's been really, really nice about you guys as a band that's been around for as long as you have is when you go to you guys' Wikipedia page, there isn't a laundry list like there is of a lot of bands of ex-members. You know, you guys have had a pretty solid, stable, small circle, you know, as far as your lineup goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been about the music for us and like the camaraderie and the family vibe. You know what I mean? It's like when we got into it, it was just we kind of got into it just by just doing it for fun. We never got into it for world domination or try to be, you know, huge. I mean, if it happened, it happened. But like,
but oddly enough, a lot of bands that you've toured with, though, have gone on to somewhat world domination. Though it seems like you guys have had a lot of great bands open up for you, but didn't get the notoriety that yourself, which is infuriating to hardcore fans.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of that is, you know, based off of the team you set yourself around. You know, there's more than the 5 people in the band that make the band function.
Right.
You know, and you know, there's certain criteria that needs to be met. And if all criteria is not met on the same page at the same time, then you know things are rough and rugged. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
I couldn't. Yeah. So I was watching a documentary about you guys on YouTube, and I found this really interesting that that Doc actually kind of punked somebody out of the God forbid name, that somebody was trying to poach this name, and Doc made him back off.
No, they had the name, and then we poached the name from them. But like we didn't know that they existed, and at the time we had another name before that, and then on a whim, Dallas came up with this name, and we just ran with it, and found out after we started running with it that there was someone else by that name. So, you know, that's when the poaching came in.
And where was this band located? This other version of God forbid.
They were from North Carolina.
Oh yeah, so we went up there with our Northeast fucking attitude, and we just said, nope. We are God forbid. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, you know, there've been a lot of, you know, well, first of all, as I mentioned at the top of the interview here, 2012 was the last album. So why now? You know, like why a decade later? Why does it feel right now? Like, you know, like what got all you guys back together and saying, hey, let's take another stab at this.
I mean, we all grew as individuals, you know. By 2012, like we've been basically running nonstop since like 97, 98. And, you know, people have grown up from that time, you know. I mean, when we started, like our younger members are like 17, 18. You know, now like dudes are in their late or early 40s and, you know, on.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things that happened during that time, you know, that really can't be spoken on because it's like just bringing up old rehash that
leave
like,
it in the past. I hear you, man.
It doesn't do anyone good. So, you know, at this point in our lives, everybody kind of went their own separate ways to figure out who they were as individuals, and an opportunity presented itself. And, you know, it was like, sure, why not give it a try, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, we never really ended back in 2012. We just hit a rough patch and some statements were made unprivy to others. And then it just, once the rock went downhill, it just kept going downhill. So,
well, I think the analogy that people in bands say where, you know, it does become a brotherhood, but with brotherhood can come, you know, people acting dysfunctional, you know, I mean, just like in any family setting or when people are in close quarters with each other and doing things closely. I mean, you know, it's going to happen. It's going to happen in families, bands. I mean,
yeah, you can't avoid it. I mean, like these people are like your brothers, you know, like you spend more time with them than your significant others. So,
sure.
You know, at some point, everyone knows how everyone moves around and everyone knows what irritates people. So sometimes when you're aggravated, you'll do some stuff to literally irritate someone else so they can kind of feel like you feel.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So,
you know.
so obviously in this decade that you've been gone, or somewhat idle, there's been obviously tons of inevitable changes in the music business. So, going forward, what is going to be the God forbid plan is just, because it did say or tease on you guys' Instagram, the reunion show, but then more to come. So will we see, a new album? Will we see you guys touring? Will we see all of the above? I'm sure the fans are eagerly awaiting.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna make any promises about anything, because life is too short and you gotta take it one day at a time. And again, like I said, there's other members in the bands that are actually moving forward.
Right.
So you can't really tell them to put a kibosh on what they've been working on in these past 10 years to be like,
Sure.
all right, well, we're gonna come back out and do this. But if things, play out like they should, I don't see why you wouldn't see us again, anytime soon or in the near future. It's just being an entity as we are, we need to basically start the machine up. Like it's been sitting in the garage,
Right.
On the tarp for like 10 years. And like the pieces that were there that function when they worked all the time are no longer there. So you have to rebuild in order to make it worth it.
And
Like
then
we're
we got
not
to take it out. Then we got to take it out and test drive it, right, Byron?
Yeah, we're not gonna, we're not just gonna take the cover off and expect, to drive 500 miles, without.
From what I saw from the reunion show, man, you guys were firing on all cylinders, man, and you couldn't tell that you guys, had 10 years worth of rust to knock off because you guys were sharp and tight. I mean, from what I've seen, and I was not at the show live, but
yeah.
Having seen what I've seen on YouTube, and YouTube can sometimes be very unflattering too. So
yeah, I mean, it was tight, but like, I mean, it would be way tighter if we played way more often.
Sure.
Like you said, like 10 years, and then a couple, 3 or 4 days together as a unit.
It's a long time.
But,
it is. It's a long time, especially with everything. So going forward, I'm sure now that fans would also want to know, will we see you guys in the studio again, or are you guys just going to focus on just bringing us your catalog now that you currently have and just going out and touring?
Well, I mean, honestly, without speaking to the other dudes, I can't really say. I mean, there's always God forbid material,
right?
That has been written. You know what I mean? It's like Doc is like the main songwriter as far as music goes. But I mean, like he has stuff that, he writes that he's like, oh, this would be good for God forbid. So, I mean, he just kind of puts it to the side.
Yeah.
And, and then we get in a room together and then we do it old school, man. We don't really do over the computer, send in stuff back and forth. And then, you know what I mean?
Like that. I love hearing that, man.
Yeah. It's just more organic. So we get in the room, we see how it feels. We'll get like a working template. And then from there, we chop at it until we think it's right. But I mean, as far as recording, well, that will depend on our contractual obligations that other dudes previously are in.
Right.
As to whether or not we could do stuff like that. I mean, we are God forbid. There'll never be another God forbid. And if we do another record, it's because we want to, not because we have to. Yeah. But at the same time, it's just like in this day and age, I kind of feel like music has become, just background noise. So
yeah, and obviously the decline of people's attention span too. It seems like putting out an album, and I talk to a lot of musicians on here. It seems like it's the same old story all the time. It's like you make this great music, but then who the hell do you sell it to? I mean, especially when people can go out and get what they want and poach what they want for free. I mean, you can make the most brilliant music in the world, but then you can't give the shit away.
Nah, you can't. I think it's just become to the point where dudes just have to figure out a new model in order to get it out there.
Yeah.
To make it more interesting for people to want to engage in it.
And make it more fruitful for you guys too. I mean, it's you guys' job at the end of the day, I mean.
Yeah, but it's never been about money for us.
Right,
You
right.
know what I mean? So I mean, at the same time, that being said, it's like we need to have a little bit of money so we can function as a
Sure.
unit.
Yeah.
But I mean, no one, we didn't get into this to get rich.
Right, right,
If that was the case, we would have been quit, when Dallas left.
right, right. So,
So
so when you got back out on that stage, you guys obviously sounded great, but from a physical standpoint, now being 10 years older, having gone through COVID, having just, aged as a human body does, how did you feel personally out on stage?
personally, I was like, "Fuck it, man. Let's roll."
You're still ready to go. So you still felt good and fucking ready to go.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I was nervous at first just because it had been so long,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's like you don't really know. Like when you do something all the time, then like yeah, it's become second nature for you. But like
right.
when you jump back on the stage in 10 years, after 10 years, you really don't know what to expect. I mean, the only thing that kind of slowed us up really was the rain
Yeah,
because it's made it for a more uh not really a dangerous environment, but a more fragile environment, with the stage being wet, running around, easily slip and fall. Like I'm
yeah.
not trying, what I'm saying, man down. So,
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
gotta
we're
be
not as young
careful.
as we used to be. That's true. A fall can be
Yeah,
catastrophic for us at this age.
yeah, dude, especially on a wet floor. And, it's just, you know, life is moving forward. So that's all you can really do. But
Hey,
I
listen, I
mean,
realized I was an old guy. I went to the Bay Area Strikes Back tour a couple weeks ago, and just trying to make it through that crowd of Testament, Exodus, and Death Angel. I'm older now. My eyesight is not as good. I'm trying to get through. I'm starting to realize as I go to these concerts that I'm not able to rage like I did when I was a younger man. And
yeah, I mean, no one really does anymore. I mean, it's just,
no,
it's brutal on your body.
yeah,
It
yeah,
definitely can be brutal on you.
yeah,
But I mean, we had fun. We enjoyed it. I mean, we'd love to do it again. We plan on doing it again. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's just again just trying to work within the parameters that we're allotted.
You're right.
People's schedules and personal lives to
Well,
make it happen.
yeah, now here's something while I have you on here that I want to give you a platform specifically to talk about. And I know that this obviously comes up in the media a lot, and I'm sure from what I've read and know about you, it's something that probably festers with you too. But the topic of, well, first of all, just racism in this world right now, that we can see a man like George Floyd be murdered right in front of us on a street in the United States in the 21st century boggles my mind. But does it still exist even in music? And how much did you have to deal with it, being somebody perceived as a black man in what would be conceived a white metal world?
Yo, that's a loaded question.
I know, but I knew it's one you'd have a topic on, because it's one that drives the ever loving shit out of me. Like, why it seems so hard for people to wrap their heads around, multiracial, people in heavy metal specifically.
Well, let's just say it like this: people in any music genre always feels more comfortable when they can relate to the individual that they're hearing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I mean, it works for all genres like that. You know what I mean? When Eminem first got into the rap game, he had a lot of issues just
Yep.
because, same with Vanilla Ice, same with Kid Rock. I think it's just people on a whole aren't necessarily used to seeing it. But at the same time, I just think that there's a song from the early 80s that totally describes the whole situation. It's called Video Killed the Radio Star.
Yes. Yeah. The first
You know
video
what I
MTV
mean?
ever played.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people get caught up in their own little ideas of what people should be and who they are and what they are because they can visually see it. But I guarantee you, if it went back to just music on the radio and no one knew what these people look like,
Right.
you see a giant difference in the response or the reactions to music live.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like there's nothing you could do about it if the racism is there. Me acknowledging it or just agreeing that it's there is not going to solve the problem. Like people need to just close their eyes and just listen to the music and let the music tell you whether or not you like it or not.
Okay, well, that's certainly a fair assessment in the music world. But how did it, first of all, where were you when you heard the news, and how did it affect you as a black man in today's America, man? When you see something like that happen to George Floyd, how does it make you feel as a citizen of this country? I mean, despicable, first of all.
Well, I mean, it's despicable, but again, it's nothing new. I mean, it's been going on forever. You know
Which
what I
makes
mean?
it even sadder, doesn't it, Byron? It makes it so much sadder.
It makes it sadder, but the reality is that it's always going to be that way, no matter what. The only difference that's now is that there's more people with video cameras in their pockets. You know what I mean? But like that's been going on in the 50s. That was going on in the 40s. You know, it's going on in the 30s.
But yeah, Byron, George Floyd was being executed, and people and it was certainly beknownst to the cops that they were being filmed, and it still didn't stop this poor man from being executed, even though the cops knew eyes were on them and cameras were on them. I mean, what kind of society are we living in?
Well, I mean, he felt he was above the law. You know what I mean? He had a badge on his chest, which makes it worse because he gives overall people who defend us, aka police officers, a bad name for all of them, when they're all not bad people. He had issues before he got on the force.
Yeah.
So, that was already ingrained in him, and he just felt like he had privilege because he had that badge on his chest. But at the same time, that being said, what we saw, I'm sure, is not everything that occurred. You know what I mean? And, I feel bad for Floyd. You know what I mean? I feel bad for anyone who's a product of fucking police brutality. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing you can really do about it except be on your P's and Q's and know that it's out there and try and prevent yourself from being the next one.
Now, you as an artist, though, a person who creatively expresses himself, when that happens, does that inspire you, regardless of whether you're in any kind of current active band? Does that inspire you to go do anything creatively? Does it inspire you to write? Does it inspire any kind of rage or any kind of angst inside of you that you in turn put into your work?
I mean, it inspires rage and angst, but it just really inspires me more to inform my child, so he doesn't end up in that same type of situation.
Yeah.
When I was growing up as a child, like my mom instilled in me to be respectful of those in authority, whether they're right or wrong. Just never put yourself in a position where they could cause you bodily harm. You know what I mean? So you just learn, being black in America, you just kind of learn how to move. Unfortunately, that's just what it is. And if you're not thinking of that mindset, then you're just doing a disservice to yourself.
Agreed.
You just got to be smart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm trying to pass it on to even more generations now, because now I have kids who have kids. You know what I mean? So now I can come at it from that grandfather role too, which is nice. It's nice because now you're starting to look like in your family. Everybody hates to age, but now you're at the point where people think like, hey, he knows his shit though. He has lived some life,
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like once you start to get older and you really see, there's plenty of times when you're younger, you want to be, hot-headed, and you kind of you're like living in the moment, but you can't really live in the moment because, the moment comes and goes. You got to think about the future. You got to think about the ones who care about you, who love you, and want to see you get home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you move correctly in that manner.
I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. So what was your specific path in your neighborhood for you discovering extreme metal music? How did you get? Who were your first influences? Who did you first hear? What was first clicking for you that got you into the scene that you eventually ended up in?
Well, I mean, shit. I mean, it goes back, man. It's like when
Are you a New York guy? Are you originally a New York guy, or you're an East Coast guy, right?
Yeah, I'm originally from New Jersey.
Okay, you're a Jersey guy. Okay, I'm in upstate New York myself, so I can sniff out a fellow Northeasterner.
Yeah, for me, I was fortunate enough to have parents who wanted to keep me busy at all times. So in the summer, I would go to day camps. I did a little traveling as a child. Like we would go on family vacations. So, and then I went to a Catholic school. So I grew up around different races my whole life. So, I mean, just by that, like I started, just listening to different types of music. Like I remember third grade, one of my first cassettes I bought was like Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. And then I got into, Def Leppard.
Yeah, you just progress like a lot of kids do. You start looking for
Yeah.
the next more faster, more brutal, more extreme thing.
Yeah. And then I got into Kiss and stuff like that. And, it's just, I got into the music. I liked the music. High school, it was all about Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, Iron Maiden,
Yeah.
which still are my favorite bands to this day. Like, I'm amazed every time I see Iron Maiden hit the stage, man, because like Bruce Dickinson, like for his, I don't want to say nothing bad, but for as old as he is, the way he moves and
Yeah.
keeps everyone entertained and energetic, like it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great to see, So like,
I think Bruce would be okay with you saying that he's old. He's old, right? I
yeah,
mean,
he's
hey.
old, but like, it's like you never want to make someone like I know how I feel when people are like, yo, you're old, and it's like, yeah, I am old, but it's a good thing, because a lot of people end up getting cut down in their prime when they're real young, and to be able to live for the amount of years I've lived, I've seen some things and I understand some things better than I would have when I was younger. So
Yeah.
everything is put into perspective.
Yeah,
So,
I heard a great quote that really resonated with me once, where the late great Muhammad Ali had said, "A man who thinks the same way at 50 as he did when he was 20 has wasted 30 years." And
yeah,
that's just so profound to me, man. That I mean, that just shows you that evolution of like where your mind starts to where it ends up. Because you know what, I'm 50 and I don't think about things the way I did when I was 20.
yeah.
I mean,
I'm not that far from 50. So
yeah, and I don't think the way I did when I was a younger man about a lot of things, about a lot of views, about you know, I mean, you're constantly developing and redeveloping those as you take stuff in over the course of your life, and see things for what they really are, and situations for what they really are,
Yeah, I mean, you really have to. It's like it's evolution.
Yeah, it is. It's evolution. So you being in the Northeast, extremely close to New York, you mentioned those heavy metal bands, but also certainly you can hear in the God Forbid sound a lot of hardcore influences. Was there a lot of influence from our legendary New York hardcore scene, i.e., Agnostic Front, Sick of It All? I mean, Grow Mags. We got them all here. New York City is the Mecca.
There was, but a lot of it was due to the fact that, when we came up, we didn't really have a scene.
Right.
So we kind of jumped into the hardcore scene and we became family with those guys. So,
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're playing with bands, certain bands you like, you kind of pick up off of their vibe and you try and incorporate it in what you do, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely some influence in there. We played a lot of shows with like Agnostic Front and Sick of It All, and it was great. We got the opportunity, just being a part of the scene and seeing how it was. Which, even though we were a part of it, we always kind of felt outside of it, just because
Right.
we were still different. Like, we recognize that we're different than the
Right.
average metalhead. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's still, at the end of the day, for us, it was all about the music. So
Well,
if the
what's
music,
really different, though? I mean, you're putting across heavy music, but what's different? The fact that there's, I mean, just like you said earlier, if I close my eyes, I just hear a heavy, face melting, crunching band. Is it the part that people can't believe that it's you and Doc and
Corey,
Dallas are black, or I think the boys there are half black, aren't they?
yeah.
Is that really what blows people's mind? Is that they can't believe that like 3 out of the 5 members are people still in this day and age? Can you believe it? They just can't wrap their heads around it. And yet we've gotten tons of great rock music that's fronted by or has black members. It boggles my mind. Now, how about for you for influences for frontmen? Did you have any specific influences? You definitely could pass for a not HR, but somebody that looks like you could bench press HR about 5,000 times.
Well, I mean, honestly, my biggest influence really came from Meshuggah and the Haunted.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, like, I got on the mic and I did my thing, and then there was a guy in another band, Harry, For the Love Of, that pretty
Okay.
much were my inspirations to take it further. You know what I mean? To basically incorporate what I did and make it better. And then, obviously Slayer, you know, freaking. I want to say I got some influence too from Howard Jones. Like seeing another black guy fronting a band back then was
Yeah.
awesome to see.
Yeah.
So I mean, but after that, it was just more about, okay, this is what I am, this is what we're doing, this is what we're going to try to accomplish, and just try and make the music relevant so people, when they close their eyes, can definitely, just levitate to it. It's just trying to be real without trying to pressure anyone into my
Right.
own realism, and I think a lot of it has to do with topics that we wrote on.
Yeah.
So I mean, but other than that, like, people are going to be what they're going to be. Like, we ran into a couple Nazi skinheads and stuff like that throughout the years, but I mean, they never really wanted to do anything. They wanted to talk that shit,
Yeah.
until we got up close, and when we got up close, then it was like, it was mum's the word, nothing was said.
I would imagine so, Byron. I would imagine so. Yeah. I mean, because you certainly are somebody, and it's no secret even amongst rock journalists. I've seen it written in other places, but you certainly come across as one of the more intimidating frontmen in the extreme metal scene. You're a big, imposing, intimidating looking guy. Do you use that to your advantage, you think, as far as your stage performance? Does it help to have that persona when you're delivering extreme heavy music?
I just think it helps to be uh honest,
Yeah.
honest about what you're doing, like really be one with the crowd, and like, I mean, I can sit here, I'm not gonna bullshit, man. Like, that is who I am, but at the same time, like, once you get to know me, like, I'm a genuine person. I don't
I feel
really
like deep
I
down
I
inside,
don't play
Byron, you're a big teddy bear, Byron, inside.
for the right people, for the right people.
Me too.
You know, I mean, it doesn't help you to be mad all the time. So,
No.
so I treat my philosophy is treat people the way you want to be treated. So if you treat me like an asshole, then I'm going to treat you like an asshole.
Sure.
But if you're nice to me, then I'll be nice to you. You know what I mean? It's just the way of the world. Like, I'm a human being just like anyone else. I was given an opportunity to be able to speak my mind and use my voice for something good. So that's what I do. You know what I mean? I'm not trying, it's not a game for me. Like, I'm not going to
Right.
sit here and do this or do that to get some fame, because fame means nothing at the end of the day if you can't feed your family.
Sure.
So
Sure.
the most important thing to me is to take care of my loved ones.
Well, now
You
you
know,
mentioned earlier that Doc does a lot of the songwriting, but what is the creative process like, though? Even when, God forbid, was putting out albums, was it collaborative? Was it more democratic, or was it just mostly Doc? And if you did have any input, what kind of stuff did you use to fuel your music back then, and what do you use to fuel it now, as far as being able to tap in and find that rage to make heavy music?
well, when I say Doc was the main songwriter, I mean, it was all collaborative. We all kicked in together. It's
Okay.
just that he would start out with the riff. He had one or two riffs that he would have an idea for, and then we get into space, and then they would play that riff, and then Corey would complement that riff, and then Beaker would compliment Corey, and then it was just like that working pattern. Then we get a rough cut, and then we'd be like, oh well, this part is too long, let's shorten it, or we'll double this part over here. You know what I mean? But like, it basically starts out with the riff, and then the
And so
riff.
if you were writing lyrics, what would the impetus for the lyrics be, though? You know what I mean? Like, what do you go in there as your motivation? Like, do you have a set idea in your mind? Like, I saw something on the news, or I just saw this movie, or I just read this and I need to write about it. Where do you draw inspiration from?
Well, it depends on how the song flows. Like a lot of it is like, I'll write. I was always writing, so I had stuff, but I just needed to figure out if it complemented the song that was actually written, as to
Okay.
whether or not I would use it. If not, then I would write something else. And then there's like certain vibes. You go in with like a certain vibe of how you want the song to hit or whatever, and then you go from there. But there was plenty of times where I did multiple rewrites, because in the beginning I started writing a lot, like it'd be too much to fit in the song, so I'd have to
Right.
chop it and make it work. But I mean, it's that, and then sometimes we'll be in a studio and we'll have a section that doesn't have a lyric, and then we'll just sit down together and then we'll just come up with something,
Yeah.
you know. But we just there's no rhyme or reason with what we do. It was just pure emotion at that time, you
Well,
know.
you said you felt fine physically when you hit the stage for the first time in 10 years, but how about emotionally inside? Do you still get the same charge? Are you still having fun? Do you still love it?
I mean, I do love it. I don't necessarily love the politics of it,
Yeah.
but I love the performance. Um, you know, like I think my voice was strong. It could be stronger. Like I like it brutal.
But you're
You know,
always going to be your own hardest critic, though. Usually people tend to be their harshest critic.
yeah. I mean, it sounded good. You know, it was great. You know, but it can be greater. It can
Right.
always be better.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I strive personally to be better the next time around. You know,
Yeah.
but you know, as far as the band, it was clicking. Considering, you know,
But that's probably a good mentality that you're in, though, to constantly be thinking you can make it better, because, it probably does give you an edge when you're doing that kind of music. And, how self-satisfied do you really want to be? When you start to get that smug and self-satisfied where you've reached the pinnacle, then I feel like bands just start kind of dialing it in a little bit, you know what I mean, and kind of phoning it in. I think when you keep that edge that you're speaking about right there, I can always make it better. I want the next one to be better than the last one. I feel like the music always benefits the most from that type of attitude.
yeah, I mean, that's the way you got to have. That's the attitude you have to have. I mean, again, it goes back to the beginning of the statement. Like we do this for us and
Right.
for the fun of it. You know, we're not calculating. We're not formulating. You know, we're not doing anything to get, you know, likes or what have you in this new generation. It's about the music being pure and striking up an accord with some other people so they
Right.
get on the same page that you're on, you know. So I mean that's all you can really hope for. I mean, and you know, for our benefit is that a lot of the songs that we did write, you know, they're like 20 plus years old and they're still relevant to this day,
Right.
which is really, really rare when it comes to music because a lot of stuff is pop formulated. So
Is there a right or wrong answer right now in terms of, I'm certainly getting a lot of divided answers with the people I talk to on here, and I'm interested to get your take. Just if you are going to release music, people are very divided on, should you just keep hitting the market with singles? Some bands want to go the EP route, small batches of well-crafted songs. Some bands are still doing the old 10, 12, full-length albums. Is there a right or wrong answer to that nowadays? If you guys were to get in the studio and record music, with people's attention span being shit these days, I mean, it seems like you got to just kind of show people your best couple of songs, and that's what they're going to fucking grab for, and you're not going to get them vested in that whole album anymore.
I don't really. Anytime you're being creative, there's no wrong way to be creative.
Okay, I love that.
As long as it's pure emotion
Yeah.
that's driven the product, I think that no matter how you put it out there, it works for you. I mean, obviously, there's some bands that have contractual obligations that they have
Right.
to meet,
Right.
you know. But I mean, when you're past that point, and now with the music business being the way that it is, you know, it doesn't really. If you can sit down and write a full album, then do it.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the time to write out a full album, then write out some really good songs that you're really proud of and then put it out as an EP. You know what I mean? Or if you only have one good song that you want to put out for now, fine, put that out for now. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter because your fan base is going to digest whatever you give them as long as it's a good product.
Right.
You know, like there's no point in putting out a full length album if you only have two good songs and the rest is shit. Because you know what I mean? Like that doesn't serve you or your fans any good, you know, and it's definitely not going to make them want to jump for your next project
Right.
if they're not satisfied with the one previous. So I
Right.
just think you need to be true to yourselves and know what your fan base is. Or even if you don't know, just be true to yourself at the end of the day, because you have to live with what you wrote, whether people
Right.
like it or not. Like it's something that is going to be a marker in time that you put out there. So
As you
just got
move
to be true to
forward,
yourself.
and if and when and how far along, God forbid, continues to move forward, did you see you guys trying to get on a label, or do you like the do-it-yourself approach? Does it make more sense these days?
I mean, honestly, that it can go either way, independent or freaking label. I mean, it depends on, it really depends on who backs your vision.
Right.
You know what I mean? If they believe in what you're doing, then it doesn't hurt to be on a label, because you'll have the people and the knowledge to get it where it needs to go.
Right.
But at the same time, it doesn't help to be on a label if they look at you at the end of the day as a tax write-off.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It's better, the more you can do on your own, the more control you can develop and,
Sure.
culminate. I think it's better. I mean, it's, again, like, it goes back to what I said before, like, music has become background noise. You know what I mean? So as long as you have dedicated people that are down for what you're doing and want to help support the vision that you have for your group, then by all means get the help you can get. But if you can't, then the more you do for yourself, the better off you'll be in the end, because you'll own your product. You can control where it goes, who hears it, what's done with it, more as opposed to that than being on a label who doesn't give a shit about you.
Right, right. So, obviously, I don't know if the fans are aware or not. Probably your hardcore fans are, but obviously Doc has Bad Wolves. So, he splits time between another band. Is God forbid, has that always been your main musical focus, or are you one of these guys that kind of puts yourself in different projects?
God forbid is just basically my own main focus.
Okay.
Like, I've had offers since I left the band, or since the band dissolved, to do other projects. But at the time, I told people straight out, I was like, look, I'm not prepared to put forth the energy that you guys want to do to partake in this. Because, like, the reason why the band kind of dissolved is because everyone just got into their feelings or whatever, and they wanted to move on with their lives and do other things. And at that point, when I left music, I was like, I need to be able to provide for myself, because I knew I wanted to have a family. I had a son on the way. So I was like, yo, I need to do something that's more stable, and I'm glad I did, because if not, I would have been in a shitstorm when COVID hit and everything was shut down.
Yeah. As a lot of people were. Yeah.
I mean, like, I had too much responsibilities to let that happen to myself. So I took care of me and my family, and, now we're good. We're in a good place. So, the ability to do that is now, it's more freeing to a degree, because it's like, again, like, I want to do it for the love, not for the money.
Right.
And when you start to depend on the money, then it messes with the love, and then you start to be formulaic. And I could not, I mean? Like, I can't function in a formulaic world. I get tired of seeing fake people. So I'm not going to be one of those fake people that, that I don't like.
Yeah, I dig that for sure. So if you guys were to go out and do more live shows, with everybody being different places in their life, as you mentioned, families, et cetera, what would be a touring schedule like that would be plausible? Because you don't sound like you're in a position where you want to just hit the road for 3, 4, 5 months at a time. Like, would it be going away and doing a few dates at a time, or isolated dates? How would you like to tour at this stage of your life?
I mean, I like it to be more isolated, because it's like, I just think that with the way that the world is right now, music has become unpredictable.
Yeah.
And it's not there's not a point in it where you can financially sustain yourself to be on the road for 3 to 5 months out of the year. I mean, there's so many protocols from state to state, and it's just, there's so many bands out there that it doesn't seem likely to be, especially coming back after 10 years, to compete with a band that's been going headstrong as long that whole time. It's stupidity. You know what I mean? I'm not 20 years old living in my mom's basement.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? My decision making affects other people outside
more than
of the
just
band.
Yourself. Sure. Yeah.
So, like, I'm not going to put myself in that type of situation. And plus, I think that, the problem that we ran into back then was we were always touring. So, you know, in my mind, I felt the mindset that people were just like, oh, we'll see them next time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at this point in juncture, if someone really wants to see, God forbid, then you have to know that if you do see us, you might not see us for a while after the fact.
Right.
So if you really
Right.
want to see the band, you need to bring your ass out, because, you know, motherfuckers don't have time for bullshit.
I've
And
seen you
sounds
once.
it sounds kind of rude, but at the same time, it's like, you know, all these people talk about they want God forbid back. They want God forbid back. But, you know, if we come and you don't show, then how bad did you really want God forbid back?
Right. Right. Well,
So,
I tell people that I seen you live because I did, but the only thing I can't remember is which bill. But I talked about it with my son earlier because he came to that show with me, and I think it was at the Lost Horizon in Syracuse, New York. And correct me if I'm wrong, but had you ever been out on the road with Impending Doom in Whitechapel?
I was with, to my knowledge that I can remember, we would play with Whitechapel when we were doing the Rockstar Mayhem.
Okay.
So if we were there with them, it might have been like an off date show.
Okay.
Because I know we did some off date shows with like Cannibal Corpse and Behemoth. So those I could definitely remember. And I know we did, when we did Ozfest, we did some off date shows with like Slipknot, Slayer, Hatebreed, and
Okay,
freaking
so you're dropping some pretty big names there. So you, Byron, have you ever been in your travels and out doing shows? Have you yourself around any of these other artists ever been starstruck? Has somebody blown you away that you got to meet or see?
dude, I met a bunch of awesome people, dude. Like I met Phil way back when he was with Super Joint Ritual on Ozfest.
The great
And then we ended up, then we started hanging out with Phil when we were doing the festivals in 09. My drummer is really good. He's real tight with like Jimmy Bauer and Pepper Keenan and Red. So got to run into those dudes. You know, I met Nico McBrain in the elevator at NAMM, and I was totally starstruck because it's like he was so friendly, and I was like, yo, I want to meet this dude head on, but like I was just nervous that, because it's like they always tell you never meet your idols, because you know, they could be having a bad day and then say some shit and then you're totally blown.
But I've also come to the idea, though, that you only get so many go-arounds in this life, though, man. And you know what? If I see somebody that really has made an impact on my life and excites me, as long as I don't make a rollicking ass of myself, I'm not all that bummed out if I get a little bit of fanboy. As long as I don't do it annoyingly. I don't want to piss anybody off, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, see, for me, like the fanboy thing, like I don't go totally over the top, because it's like, again, like I live by the idea that like they're humans just like me.
You're
you
just
know
as
what I
good
mean?
as
Like,
they are, right? Sure.
yeah, you know what I mean? So I don't really go crazy, but I did actually get to meet Jerry Cantrell, and I kind of fanboyed out at that point.
The heart's gonna go a little bit. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I was at this place where he was, and he was like, he introduced himself. He's like, hey, how you doing? Because I met him through Big Val. Big Val brought me to meet him. Yeah. And he's like, hello, I'm Jerry Cantrell. I was like, dude, I know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's that?
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, but I mean, like, you know, at the end of the day, to me, I just feel like they're just humans like everyone else, you know, like.
Yeah, I noticed it the most, as I mentioned, with the accelerated heart rate, and you just kind of get that feeling like you're about to meet somebody important. I imagine it's probably how other people might view, like maybe going and meeting the president. But, you know, when you grow up with these people, it's a big deal. I went and saw a spoken word concert, and then by chance in the parking lot afterwards, I got to meet Henry Rollins. And I got to admit, I was a little bit, he's an intimidating fella. He's very well read. He's very well traveled. He's an intimidating guy. He knows a lot of shit. He's got a notorious reputation as a legendary punk rocker from back in the day. I mean, he is that dude, you know? I mean, it's hard not to be a little awestruck, you know?
Well, I just think like whatever energy you bring is the energy that is returned to you.
Right. And it's very genuine. So, I genuinely love like what he does. I've absorbed the books. I've watched the I've listened to his music. It's the whole package of just him being that Renaissance guy to me. You know, it just does everything, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, I met a few people. So
I bet you have. I bet you have it though. Some of those festivals got to be like just like seeing people left and right.
Well, that, and like I've seen some things that I don't think people appreciated.
Right.
You know, like for example, we played an Ozfest show where Ozzy was sick and Rob Halford sang with Sabbath.
Oh man, the legend.
But
Yeah.
but the kicker is this. The kicker is this. Like, when people made that announcement, people started leaving.
Oh God.
It's like, dude, are you
You
serious?
don't
Like,
walk
yeah.
out on the metal god. Come on.
Well, not even just the metal god. The fact that he's singing with Black Sabbath. Like,
Yeah,
how
this is a
often are you
moment.
going to see something like that? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's a moment.
That's a moment in time.
Yeah.
You know, it's like things like that like people just kind of take for granted. You know, and
Has there been anybody in your travels? And obviously, you can certainly be diplomatic and not drop any names. But have there been people that you've met that you thought you would look forward to meeting, and they turned out to kind of be a letdown?
yeah, there was one dude. His name was Ingve Malmsteen.
Really, Ingve, huh?
Yeah, he's a fucking asshole.
And you didn't even care about throwing his name out there, huh? Ingve was not very fan friendly, huh?
Nah, it was like even before I was in the music. Like, I've spoken on it before, but I had went to a guitar signing that he was doing
Okay.
at this music store, and I brought my guitar for him to sign it because I used to be all about the virtuoso guitar players and stuff,
Sure.
like Ingve, Paul
Yeah.
Gilbert, like Lee Saraceno. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Like that was my thing back in high school. And he wrote on my guitar. I had a Kramer guitar. He wrote "Play a Fender" on my guitar.
Oh
And
man.
I was like, yo, I asked him, I was like, why'd you do that? And he was like, because they pay me to. And I was like, yo, you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah, that's not what you.
Yeah.
So he took your.
He literally wrote "Play a Fender" on my guitar.
And he didn't tell you that he was going to do it, huh? He just fucking.
No,
so you thought.
Yeah,
so you thought you were getting. So you thought you were getting an autograph on it.
Yeah. And he wrote
Fuck
"Play
you,
a Fender."
Ingve.
Yeah, pretty much. So, other than that, everyone else I've met has been pretty cool.
Yeah, that is kind of a bummer. And I can't say that I've really had that moment where I've been like let down yet. But certainly some people were a little like less than I expected. But it is kind of tough though, because as we mentioned before, people are human. You might not catch people on their best day sometime. But obviously Ingve doing that though. Ingve pulling that is kind of just purposely doing a dick move, though.
He's a straight up dick.
Yeah,
I don't care how good he is. He's a fucking dick. So he's lucky he didn't get punched in the face.
So obviously, fans, don't ask in the comment section. You'll never see a Byron Davis led band with Ingve Malmsteen on lead guitar. It's not going to happen.
Definitely not.
Nope. He'll be strangled. He'll be strangled and instantly ripped apart and mutilated and thrown out of the band. So. As of right now, without saying too much, because I know we are in the embryonic stages of the whole God forbid reunion. But how much talk has there been amongst the guys, and how much interest and feedback are you getting from the guys as to how far God forbid will continue to go?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of talk. Ever since there was talk prior to us, like, playing the festival, there was talk about some more shows.
Okay.
Right now, all that stuff is in the works.
Okay.
I really can't go too deep into it right now, but
it's all right.
Like, there are definitely things planned for the future. It just basically boils down to scheduling and availability of venues and stuff like that, and trying to pick the right packages to bring for the show. Like, I mean, at that point, I think I've spoken too much, but I mean, when we want to play, we want to play, and we want to play with other bands that we love, and even newer bands.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I mean, at the end of the day, like, if we haven't accomplished anything, or let me say this better, if we've accomplished anything in the music industry at all, it's that people that don't look like you can succeed and be just as good as anyone else. Like, I'm very happy with the fact that, there's a lot of bands of color or different nationality that have come after us, and they pay homage to us as saying that we were the inspiration. Because at the time, when me and Corey were still in high school, there wasn't too many of us that liked heavy music. So the fact that we were able to get into the genre and make something that people could stand behind and be like, yo, this is really good, and it's heartfelt, and then affect other people who want to come out to the show and see it, and then be like, well, if Byron and Corey can make a metal band, then we can do a metal band.
Right.
And that's we got our inspiration from Living Color.
Yeah.
You know, we're like,
Sure.
yo, dude, it's a
Yeah.
black metal band. It's like, yo, if they did that shit, we could do this shit.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just it trickles down. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I'm glad that I could be that kind of inspiration, you know,
Well,
to other
well,
people.
and that's a nice tribute to Living Color, because I'm sure that I'm sure that they would be happy to hear, they had that effect on people. So obviously you are the front man of God Forbid. Now, with being a front man, obviously you get approached to do a lot of press. You sometimes, whether you want to be or not, you become the face of the band. You're the guy the most out front. Who have you learned the most from as far as frontmen, and who are some frontmen that you admired, just as frontmen, performers, singers, entertainers?
That would be Corey Taylor,
Okay.
uh, Tom Araya, Phil Ensemble,
Yeah, they've sold some
freaking
records.
Prince, Michael
Wait a minute.
Jackson.
Wait a minute. Was the last one you said Prince?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, yes.
that's my all-time favorite artist. As much of a metalhead as I am, man, Prince, my audience knows it, is that's my guy right there, man.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who gets out there and puts it on the stage, man, like I can respect all of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I respect Ivan from Five Finger. You know, there's a bunch, man. I mean, it's crazy. Matt from Trivium, like
Okay.
he's really honed in his craft. You know, like we took them out on one of their first tours, and to see
Yep.
what they're doing now, it's
Crazy.
fucking amazing, man. You know what I mean? Like those dudes are so good, and they're down to earth dudes, man. Which is the most important thing to me. I always tried to be, level headed despite whatever. So I'm glad that they've taken the ball and ran with it. You know what I mean? Those dudes are they're leading the trail, man, and I'm happy for them.
Is there ever a point in time when you do, because you have famously had a lot of bands open shows for you that have gone on, to some great successes? As you mentioned, they're your comrades, you're happy for them, but did you ever go through any periods of time inside where you felt a little bit of sour grapes? Like, how did they get so big and we didn't get our break?
No, I don't feel bad. I just know, back to what I said before, if you have the right team around you that believes in you, then things will happen. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just, I mean, it is what it is. If everyone was going to succeed, then everyone would be rock stars, but everyone can't be rock stars. So, you're going to have those points in your career where you're at your highs, and then you have your lows. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. But like the fact that you keep pushing forward makes you even a better band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when you work under adversity. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy for anyone, especially at this stage in the game, for bands that have been going 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years strong. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, they've been doing it that long, but it's still not easy.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's still a struggle, and for everything good that happens, you got to think there's going to be some bad stuff that didn't happen.
Right.
So, you just got to keep pushing forward. And, depending on how bad you want it or how much you're willing to sacrifice, you'll finally get there at some point. You know what I mean? Me personally, I just got done sacrificing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I needed to take care of myself.
Sure.
When focus becomes everyone else but yourself, you're not doing anyone.
You're not in a good place. Yeah. You're not. Yeah.
So I had to put myself in a good place, and I'm in a better place than I was 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And hopefully my guys are in better places than they were 10 years ago. And, with that being said, the future's still bright. So,
Yeah. Which is good news for
yeah,
God Forbid fans.
as long as we're still breathing, the possibilities are endless for us. You know what I mean? But unlike the past, we're not going to be just jumping into things without thinking about the ramifications of
Sure.
the action. So, like you said, with age comes wisdom.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be smarter about it this time around.
So obviously fans will always debate, album against album. As far as the back catalog of God Forbid, where did you think you guys had your finest moment as far as song wise? I'm a big fan of Reject the Sickness. I love that album. A lot of people would say Gone Forever, your 2004 release. What do you think God Forbid's best work is?
I mean, as of right now, considering that we haven't written anything else at this point, I think our best music is still yet to come. But if I have to say one of the best albums, I would have to go with Constitution and Treason.
Okay.
Because at that point we've always been firing on all cylinders, but life happened during that album. We were in Europe for 10 and a half weeks, and then the situation with Dimebag occurred.
Yeah.
Some of us were close knit in that situation where we knew people that were there the days prior to the event. And it's just being able to ingest that and turn it into a positive, and then going in the studio when we got back, literally writing that album in 2 months and going and recording it, and then having it be so relevant at this point in time right now, I think it's just insane. Like, if you literally go into the songs on that album, like, you're basically living those days right now.
Yeah.
And obviously, I love all the albums, and then we have a couple of songs that are relevant now that are on Earth's Blood, so but I would have to go Constitution and Treason, Earth's Blood, then Gone Forever. Rejecting Sickness was pinnacle for us because that was the point. That album was actually what got us signed without us even trying. So,
yeah.
We weren't even trying to get signed. Like, we knew we had something when the engineer for that album and the mastering guy were like, yo, this is really good. Let me send it to some people I know.
Yeah.
And boom, that's how we got with Central Media.
Well, obviously people evolve in their career and in their talents, can become more eclectic. Some of their tastes can mellow out as they get older. If you were to proceed with new music, obviously what Doc does in Bad Wolves is a pretty big departure from what he does in God Forbid. Sometimes people, like to change their sound a little bit. If you were to get in there and do new music with God Forbid, would we see much tweaked in the sound because you guys are older now, or would it still be that signature sound that God Forbid, or you yourself, do you have any interest in changing the sound or adding elements that maybe weren't there before?
I mean, if you know the God Forbid catalog, you know that every album we did evolved.
Yep.
We just pushed and pushed and pushed. I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't keep pushing if we did another album. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we have some stuff that people remember that, are our signature stuff, but I mean, we're not afraid to push, the glass a little bit further to the edge, as long as we keep our credibility about it. You know what I mean? We're not going to go in there and do something completely off the wall that we never even tried in practice, or, you know what I mean? Like, we'll entertain something, and then the next album we'll entertain that same thing, but we'll have it better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a constant growing process. It never ends. Like, it's not going to be totally out of left field to what we do. Like, cause we never put boundaries on ourselves.
Yeah.
So
I like
all
the things that you say about challenging yourself as you move forward, and like always setting the bar higher and higher and higher, and not being satisfied and wanting everything that you do to be better than the last. I mean, I think that speaks volumes. I think that makes fans obviously very excited for new God Forbid music.
Yeah, I mean, if they get a new album, man, they should be grateful.
Yes, we will. Believe me, man. We will be. We will be, man.
Not trying to be a dick about it, but I mean, it's like we take what we do very seriously, man. And if we commit it to wax, so to speak, then we stand behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we're not trying to destroy anything that we created. We're only going to move.
And it's not a great time in music history to get in the studio either. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of incentive for bands to want to get in and make an album nowadays. Because as we said at the top of this, sometimes you make great music and you can't give it away.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point too, it's a lot cheaper to actually record it than it would be back in the day. Because now the ability for home studios has, definitely saturated the market with everybody thinking that they can put out music.
Yeah.
So I know. There's nothing wrong with that, until you get into a situation where everything that you're hearing is all the same.
Every kid at home with a laptop is a musician nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, more power to them. You know what I mean? But
yeah, they're using the technology at least. I mean, but You know, I
Yeah.
think sometimes it can come across as a little bit disingenuous sometimes, I think, you know, to the consumer that's going to plop their money down for it if some kid's just making it with no real heart or soul behind it. I think there certainly needs to be an element of what you guys do, getting together in a room and really, you know what I mean, like putting heart and soul and sweat into it. You know, I think I think that puts a stamp and a seal on it that really makes it special.
Well, I mean, music is a group effort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you have multiple people working together, I mean, there's going to be some arguments, there's going to be some disagreements, but
Sure.
you're all working to make the finished product a great product. If you're just by yourself, there's no one to second guess your decision making. So that's
Right.
where you end up with garbage.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have somebody that's in the room with you saying, "Yo, that shit is whack," you might be thinking it's the best thing on the planet, but there's no one to criticize you, you know. But if you're in a room with four other people and they're like, "Yo, that shit is whack," then you're gonna tend to agree and then fucking try and go back to the drawing board.
Absolutely.
You know,
Well, I'm sure fans are going to be excited. Byron, Doc, Beaker, Corey, all you guys, you know, back together again. It's going to have fans geeking out and excited, and certainly we are anticipating, you know, more. And fans are certainly excited. I could sit here and talk with you all night, brother. It's been a real blast sitting here chopping it up and shooting the shit with you, man. I know the fans are probably going to enjoy it. As soon as I put it up, I'll send you a link to it. Feel free to share it on whatever. But it's been a blast, man. I really appreciate you being so generous with your time, man.
oh, no problem, man. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me, man.
Yeah,
Like I kind of
absolutely.
strayed away from the spotlight.
Yeah. And let's we'll stay in touch and hopefully we'll do it again. When the next big development comes and we're ready to do something, we'll get in here and talk about it again, man. I would love it.
Cool. Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Byron, thank you so much, buddy. Thank you.
No problem. You take care.
All right. Talk to you later, buddy. Later.
All right.
Man, there he goes, man. Byron, a very good guest, man. It was a blast chopping it up and talking to him, man. Byron, if you're still there and you can hear us, man, we love you, my man. And hopefully we can get him on here again when there's some new big news in the God Forbid camp, man. But in the meantime, go back and check out God Forbid's catalog of some face-melting, bone-crunching fucking albums, man. Those guys can fucking throw down, man. That is Byron Davis from the great God Forbid. Do go check them out, man. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Pod Scum. And remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy.